I'm Rick Miller, the host of
Xing the Gap,
where I try to bridge a generational gap between a baby boomer and a millennial, usually. Since I'm a Gen Xer myself, a bit of a rule breaker, I'm going to break my own rules and interview a fellow Gen Xer today and his Gen Z daughter. Dwayne Morgan is a celebrated spoken word artist, speaker, and social entrepreneur from Scarborough, Ontario, who spent his career promoting African Canadian and urban-influenced artists. His daughter, Egypt, is 13 years old and possesses more wisdom than many of us 4 times her age. The three of us cover our addiction to screens, the political impact of TikTok, transcending generations through music, baking with grandparents, shaping our own narrative, acting instead of hoping, and always loving Whitney. Welcome to
Xing the Gap.
Dwayne and Egypt Morgan, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So the audience will have heard my introduction and they might have heard of Dwayne and his work. Egypt, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm 13 years old. I'm in 8th grade and I'm a dancer. So I'm artistic in that way.
Well, the world needs more artistic. And you're what we call Gen Z, right?
I don't really get that there's why there's a point for labeling the generations. It's a good reference point to differentiate who you're talking to, though, like who you're talking about when you're talking about specific things.
And Dwayne, your schooling is finished, I'm sure, but you're in the school of life. Tell us just a little bit about how you describe yourself to someone who might not know you at all.
I'm a spoken word artist. So for those people who don't know, it's poetry that is written to be performed and presented in front of an audience. And I consider myself to be a connector. I like to, connect people to ideas and feelings and concepts and often try to do that through the work that I create.
Great. So let's jump right in then.
Conversation.
Dwayne, social media is kind of a necessary thing for your work. What is your relationship to social media? Would you say it's a healthy one?
I believe my connection and relationship with social media is healthy. I think I have very clear boundaries. There is time carved out into each day for social media because it's a big part of my work. So, when it's social media time, I go and I do what is necessary to network and to promote and to let people know what it is that I'm doing. And when that time is over, then I put the phone away and move on to other things. So it's not something that takes over my life.
In Egypt, at the age of 13, I know you use your phone a lot, right?
Yes, I definitely am highly addicted to using my phone. I have come to terms with that. But I don't know, it plays a big role in my life. Most of the time, social media, in my case, is used to communicate with my friends and other people. So it's not so much about promoting anything. There's nothing really for me to promote, but I do use it to contact people, to stay in contact with my peers.
People probably tell you that you're on your screen too often, right?
Oh, yes. I always get told that I should take a break. I'm always on it. I'm addicted. Oh, yeah.
Every generation is told by the previous generation that they're on their screens too much. I was born in 1970 at the heart of Gen X, and we were pretty much raised by television. So were many baby boomers who in the 50s and 60s sat in front of their black and white TV sets after school watching shows like Howdy Doody or later American Bandstand with quasi-religious fervor. And yes, the screens have changed over the years. They've become smaller, more sophisticated and personalized. And yes, watching something on a screen together is far less common than it used to be. But the sociological dynamics around it are more or less the same. We parents complain about kids these days, and we forget that we used to be kids in those days.
Well, I think there's a sense of amnesia that people seem to have as they get older, because as you pointed out in the question, many of the things that we, complain to the young generation about in terms of their behavior, those things existed when we were younger, but in a much different way. So possibly some of the wisdom in that is that we can now look back and realize time that we wasted, moments that we didn't capitalize on because we were, looking at a screen or we were distracted, and we don't want that for the generation that's coming forward, or we're just completely blind to the fact that that we went through the same things. It just looked different when we were going through it.
Would you not say, though, the addiction and the potential for addiction based on the way the system works is a little more dangerous these days?
Well, now it's very different and very dangerous. Back when we were growing up, we didn't have these things in the palm of our hands. You were lucky if you had a TV in your room that, you could watch on your own. So there's a lot more dangers now that young people don't realize because they don't necessarily have the cognitive skills to, differentiate what is harmful, what isn't harmful. So when we, expand on that and we look at rates of anxiety, depression, suicide amongst young people, we've never seen numbers like this before. And much of it can be tied to the addiction that they have to social media, to their screens, and not yet having the skills to be able to, create clear and healthy boundaries around these things.
Right. So Egypt, Dwayne mentions that young people don't necessarily have the cognitive skills. In other words, their brain hasn't had a chance to really fully develop. And you mentioned addiction yourself, which is a pretty serious word. You said it with a bit of a smile, but you also probably know the dangers around it. Do you have friends who you feel are dangerously addicted?
Not necessarily. Majority of my friends do things like extracurricular activities or like play sports or whatever. So I have seen it with other people, maybe in my school or community, but not like my friends personally that I talk to like on a daily. I don't think it's dangerous. I think it's normal for the average teenager in this generation and in this day and age, but I don't think it's dangerous.
Okay, cool. So in terms of social issues, social media obviously has a lot to do with how we communicate. Do you think generally, and I'll start with you, Dwayne, that a social situation, a big issue of the day, can be helped by social media?
I think you can raise awareness to certain things, but one has to be very careful with social media because you can't necessarily fact check in the same way that we might be able to fact check before. So it's very easy for disinformation to spread. It's very easy for things that aren't true to be spread and go viral and reach this huge audience with information that just isn't true. So while you do have the opportunity to bring awareness, you also have the equal opportunity to completely send people down the wrong direction.
Right. So like you say, it does take a lot of mindfulness. You got to be very careful about how you're processing this stuff in your own brain to be able to recognize, I guess, truth from fiction, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Egypt, what is the best example of activism that you've seen through social media?
Well, I love being on TikTok for one. So on TikTok, I do know that a lot of people were posting videos about things that were going on in the world. For example, like when everything with George Floyd happened, I know a lot of my friends too, over here that I consider my friends, posted a lot about it, just kind of talking about it and bringing awareness to the situation. Even though oftentimes we're silenced being so young, I think social media is a good platform for that because a lot of young people are on it. So we get educated and we get a place to kind of talk about things that we can't talk about anywhere else.
That's great to hear because my first introduction to TikTok was through my daughter. One of my daughters is 14 and we recorded 100 TikTok dances in a row at the start of the pandemic because it was something to do. I didn't realize TikTok had a role in activism. And then I heard that a bunch of K-pop artists, they kind of tricked Trump in a way about a rally. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah. I'm not too sure exactly what happened, but I do know that Trump was having a rally or something and one person bought a bunch of tickets and no one ended up going to his rally. So like once you kind of get TikTok famous, you hold a lot of power and it's kind of crazy because when you think about it, they shouldn't hold that much power for making videos online, but they do. They're able to switched like people's views and minds. Like when the election was going on in the United States, like a lot of people through TikTok and other social media platforms, of course, were kind of sharing their point of views on who to vote for and things like that, even if they couldn't vote.
Gotcha. You had mentioned George Floyd before, and knowing my audience is generally older people, what would you like them to learn from this year?
Well, in my opinion, I feel like people should just be aware of what's going on and be educated of what's going on. Even if they don't agree with the movement, they don't necessarily have to. I think it's obviously, I agree with it. I definitely support it 110%. I feel like it's something that everyone should try to do, but everyone has their different opinions and views. So I just think the best thing for us to do, whether that's through social media or through rallies or protests or anything, I definitely feel like it's just good to bring awareness and to just educate people who might not know, because not everyone knows about what's going on. Not everyone pays attention and or cares about what's really happening in the world. So I feel like it's our job to kind of educate the people who don't know.
But isn't it also, and Dwayne, I'll throw this to you, the job of the people who are not educated to just kind of catch up on things? Like, Dwayne, you've been writing about this your whole career, right?
Mm-hmm.
It must be frustrating for you to kind of see how slowly things move and how late people are to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely frustrating, but you can't, expect somebody who doesn't know to kind of sit there and say, well, I don't know. Most people feel like they know everything. So I think the first step is to admit that there are probably some things that you don't know. There are people who believe that, since Barack Obama, we've now moved into this post-racial world, and they don't understand why the things that they see happening are happening. But the things that we are seeing, we're only seeing because of technology, because of cell phones. All of these things have always been going on. These things were going on when Obama was also the president. So there's nothing new that is happening now. What is new is the technology that allows us to see it in the palm of our hands and not be able to shake it or ignore it and run away from it.
It's a good thing that we can't run away anymore from the darker truths that we bury in the trash compactor of history. Young people today are so much more aware of systemic problems in the world. And the more aware we are of the problems, the more we can collaborate on finding solutions. But that awareness also comes at a cost. We're bombarded with more information than ever before in history, and it can be overwhelming. So what do? Keep on doom scrolling until your brain is crushed by the Death Star trash compactor? Or call for help and try to escape? I asked Dwayne in Egypt where that escape might be for them.
Okay, go ahead, Egypt.
I usually find my calm. Usually, I just sit in my bed. I try to sleep. Sleeping is very calming to me. So yeah, when I'm not on a screen, I'm usually eating or sleeping. And I think that brings happiness onto me if my phone doesn't.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're finding calm in sleep, and I'm glad you're eating. Those are all good things that we need to survive. Dwayne, where's your source of peace and calm?
Well, I think as an artist, my peace comes from creating. So, whether it be writing poems, whether it be taking pictures, whether it be creating videos, I just try to stay active, creating. And I think through creating, I maintain my mental health, and it gives me a way to process some of the things that I've been ingesting.
Okay. And does music play a role in calming you, either of you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, me too.
What's your calm music, Egypt? I know my daughter has these playlists that are, called calm.
I don't necessarily have a calm playlist, but like usually to fall asleep, I'll put music on.
Oh, okay.
Like just calm music, not too loud, but I'll usually have that on.
Okay. And what is a song you would play that your dad would absolutely hate?
Oh, I don't want to have... He hates most of my music. I don't understand why.
What's your music?
It's so all over the place. I do like Beyonce. I listen to Beyonce a lot.
Dwayne, you don't like Beyonce?
I happen to like Beyonce. She knows certain types of music that she listens to. I don't agree with.
Okay,
Beyonce.
well, that's not very often.
I've brought her to see Beyonce. I'm a fan of Beyonce. So, Beyonce, that we're on board there. All good.
All right. So if you were to play a song in the car and kind of belt out each of you together, a song that you can share, what would it be?
That we would sing together?
Yeah.
It would have to be probably like a Whitney Houston song. Yeah, it would probably be like an old school song. Because he's been trying to teach me about old music.
A lot of people our age do that. Dwayne, what's the song? Which Whitney Houston song?
Which is the one that we sang together? I can't remember if it was I'll Always Love You.
Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah, okay. So we have videos of us doing a duet to that in the car. But I think it's an important part of, when we talk about the generations of looking at music that transcends generations. And, I can recall music that my parents exposed me to that I love today. I might have hated it then, or maybe I pretended to hate it, back then. But being able to listen to a song that was made in a completely other generation that still has meaning and relevance is, such a profound piece of art making, because you always want to create art that can live beyond your moment. So I think it's very important that we, teach the younger generation about, music that is iconic.
Okay, and I'll use that as a jumping point to the past. Is there a time in the past when you just would have really loved to be there, Dwayne?
Definitely. I would have loved to be there during the civil rights movement in the United States. I think a lot of the work that I do ties into that kind of energy. So, I mean, it would have been really cool to actually feel what that energy was like.
What about you, Egypt? If you could jump back in time to, either the fashion or the music or the style, what would it be?
In terms of style, I'd probably want to be born in the 80s in terms of style, or the 90s. But in terms of music, probably late 90s, early 2000s in terms of music.
Why is it that people your age are really obsessed with the late 90s? I know my daughter and movies like Titanic, and, she's digging into that period. Why do you think it is?
I'm not too sure, because I'm not that in tune with like the 90s, but I have listened to music from the 90s, and I do like it, because now there's a lot of language that's just not the best, like in today's music. And then you listen to those, and like you can there doesn't have to be like an edited version, like you can hear all the words, like they're more chill, they're not so rough as I'd call today's songs, some of them. I don't know, I just enjoy the music, and I feel like they had an easier way of living. They didn't have like they weren't attached to electronics and social media. Like they would go outside, hang with their friends outside, and not like have to call them and text them on different things to see them.
This dreaming for disconnection that Egypt is talking about might surprise some older people. We tend to think kids only want digital connections, and the only way to see the world is mediated through a screen. That's just not true, and I've seen it in my own teenage daughters. Their happiest and least anxious times are usually when they get together with friends. Sure, they might have their devices with them, but it's the human interaction they crave, just like their parents and grandparents did before them. Egypt, do you have grandparents?
I do.
Are you in touch with them a lot?
Yes.
And what is something that you feel you have learned from your grandparents? And the opposite question is, what is something you think you've shown them that they may not have known before?
I'll start with what I've shown them. I think I have shown them about, I've taught them a lot about technology. If it weren't for me, I don't know where they would be in terms of technology and their use and how to use it, and even how to turn it on. I don't know. I feel like I've definitely shown them that part. In terms of what they've taught me, I don't know. I feel like they've taught me to not be so dependent on on electronics and stuff. Sometimes when I'm hanging with my grandparents, I tend to put my phone down more.
Right.
And actually just like enjoy their company sometimes, or like even my grandmother the other day, I baked cakes with her. Like they just really enjoy like the simple things, you know, just being able to do that, being able to go downstairs and bake cakes with your granddaughter. I think that's something they look forward to, and it's something I look forward to. So they've definitely taught me to kind of enjoy the little and the simple things that I have.
Great. And Dwayne, you're not quite an old man yet. You're approaching middle age, I guess. Do you feel you can still gain wisdom from, call them our elders, people who are in the latter stages of life?
I have a lifelong commitment to learning. I don't believe that you ever stop learning. And I believe, one makes a big mistake when they feel like they can't learn from someone. So I believe that I can still learn from the oldest person and the youngest person in the room.
Okay. So on that note, if you were to share something to the youngest person in the room, which is to your daughter, to pass on a message, say it was the last message you had to pass on, what would it be if you were to summarize it in a very short message?
I think the most important thing is that life is a reflection of your habits and what you choose to do with your time. And, it's very easy to get caught up in these narratives where we feel that we're victims and we feel like life has been horrible to us. And sure, there are things that happen that are beyond our control, but we always get to think about, how are we going to feel about this? How am I going to think about this thing that has happened? So I think when we understand the power that we have to shape the narrative, I think that's the most important way to guarantee your contentment throughout life.
Right. And you had mentioned in a song that you released called Bullies, it was a video that I'm trying to remember the quote, but it was change the conversation you have with yourself. Is that the quote?
Yes.
Yeah. So the idea that we are constantly challenged with what we have in our own heads and that people have to deal with that in order to better handle the world. Is that a way to summarize it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're constantly talking to ourselves. We're in the car by ourselves and we're talking to ourselves. We're affirming ourselves. We're tearing ourselves down. And so much of what happens in our lives and the decisions that we make, it can be tied back to how we feel about ourselves. So when we start having healthier, more positive conversations with ourselves, it allows us to make healthier, more positive decisions and have healthier and more positive relationships with the people that we interact with. Didn't
Whitney herself say learning to love yourself is Egypt finished the line.
The greatest love of all. Oh, okay. Sorry, I beat you to
My
it.
bad.
No, I threw it out there. Dwayne took it. He's a type A personality. So Egypt, if you were to then package a little message to say a podcast full of older people or a stage full of older people, and you might have spoken to stages full of older people, what do you want them to know about younger people that you think they've misunderstood?
I think one of the biggest things is just that we have a voice, and we might not have been on Earth that long. We might not have been or experienced as much as older generations have, but we still understand things. Like we still see and hear and feel just like everyone else. We're still like everyone else. We're intelligent. We understand things. I feel like that's something that they often misunderstand about my generation, that we can talk up. We just don't really have like anywhere to say things to that will be heard.
How can young people be heard? Well, for starters, us older people in power need to shut up and listen sometimes, especially to wise young women like Egypt. I feel they're on the right side of history, and they need to be at the table as we try to solve these planetary problems. But how do we bring them to the table? Are they ready? Here's a recent book title by psychologist Jean Twenge, iGen, Why Today's Super Connected Kids Are Growing Up Less Rebellious, More Tolerant, Less Happy, and Completely Unprepared for Adulthood. I asked Egypt what she thinks of that title.
I think that for some people who aren't necessarily always on social media, so someone who maybe doesn't have electronics or maybe their parents don't agree with it, they're not really allowed to have social media. I feel like for a person like that, they wouldn't be as prepared for adulthood because I don't learn about how to be prepared. I'm only 13. So it's not necessarily like I'm being prepared every single day. I see things, I understand things, and I kind of teach myself. And those lessons kind of play a big part and like a role in how I'll be when I grow up. I do agree with the less happy part. Suicide rates, depression rates, anxiety rates, they're definitely a lot higher now. I think that has a lot to do with social media and the internet, people getting cyberbullied. I do definitely agree with that part of the title. I definitely think I agree with all of it. Like, I understand where it's coming from and why the author would say that, because I agree.
Egypt, you're a pretty wise person for your young years. I'm
Thank you.
Very, very impressed. The hope for the future that a lot of people talk about now, Dwayne, I'm wondering what you think of when you hear the word hope. Does it fill you with hope, or does it kind of make you roll your eyes and go, no, we need something different?
I've never really been one who believes in hope. I think hope is a cop-out that stops people from actually doing the work. You hope something is going to change, but nothing changes until you change it. So I try to avoid hope as an idea and as a concept because to me, it just doesn't work. I'm more interested in what are you actually doing, not what you're hoping to do.
Right. So the idea of instead of hoping for better, doing better.
Absolutely.
Or being better for that matter. Mm-hmm. And being is this sort of state of like recognizing the present moment and getting perspective on ourselves. To be self-aware, ironically, means you need to actually get out of yourself a little bit. And it's really, really hard these days when we're so sucked into our screens. So maybe I'll just end on this question of what do we need to do as people, as families, as communities, start thinking about the other more than the self?
I mean, I think part of it is remembering about, the beauty of life. I mean, just going out and doing things and not doing things because you need to take a picture that said, I did it so that you can post it, but just doing it for the sake of doing it. Purposely leaving your phone at home. So you have no choice but to actually just be present in the moment that you're living in. And I think when we can get back to understanding that life isn't all about what we put on our phone and what is happening on our phone and what other people are posting on our phone, then we could actually be more present in the moment and realize that there's real life happening around us that is beyond us, that is bigger than us as individuals. And I think that's how we then can start focusing in on, being more compassionate, empathetic towards other people.
In Egypt, your dad's suggesting to step away from your phone and to not sleep with it and to be less addicted to it and to bake more, things with your grandparents. Do you agree with what he's saying?
I do agree. If I ever forget my phone at home, I will turn around and go back and get it.
Sure.
I definitely feel like it's something that a lot of people should do, including myself. So that, like you said, you have no other choice but to just do it to do it. And you don't think you'll get likes or friends or followers because of it. I don't think that's a good way to be. I feel like you should not only care about yourself, you should care about doing good things for the sake of doing it. Yeah, I agree with everything he said. Yes.
Well, perfect. Cooperation is a nice way to throw us into the competition part of this podcast.
Competition.
Which is of course, friendly, lighthearted competition about generations and how little and kind of how much we know about each other. And in a way, too, how quickly pop culture moves and kind of is so hard to keep up with. So, Dwayne, here are a few questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
What's the difference between a meme and a GIF?
A GIF involves movement, and meme is just a static picture.
Would you know how to text a GIF right now to Egypt?
Yes.
Okay, I trust you. Next question. What hair accessory is Jojo Siwa famous for wearing?
Oh, come on. Easy.
Jojo Siwa.
Apparently it's easy.
It is. Come on. We watched Dance Moms together.
Okay, Egypt, come in there. Time's running out.
The headband.
A bow.
A bow, Dwayne.
Okay.
All right, and let's see. What did Kylie Jenner name her child? Dwayne? Not Dwayne, but, you know.
Is that Stormy?
Very good. Okay, who is Egypt's favorite musician, singer, or band?
Beyonce.
Is that right, Egypt?
Yes.
Okay, you did very well, Dwayne. I have
you.
no prizes to give you other than my gratitude.
Bragging rights are good.
Egypt, ready?
Yes.
Besides Donald Trump and Barack Obama, name a U.S. president.
Abraham Lincoln.
Wow. Okay, good. Very good. You dig back deep there. Very good. Okay, what decade did the internet start becoming popular?
Oh, Lord. What decade?
When did everyone start using it? Take a guess.
I am going to guess maybe in the 1980s.
Dwayne?
I would say the 90s.
90s. Okay, you were pretty close, Egypt. What is a rotary phone and how does it work?
Is that one of the phones where you have to twist the thingy and go to the numbers? I'm not sure.
That's exactly it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they didn't used to call it a thingy, but, you know, you're right.
Yeah, you like turn the thing
Dial.
around to the numbers and then you turn it the other way and then, yeah, I've seen it.
And it took a lot of work to dial a number.
Yes.
Okay, we used to talk about music on side A and side B. What the hell are we talking about?
Music on side A or side B?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the genre of it?
Dwayne, do you want to help out?
Back in the day, albums and cassettes had music on side A and side B. So you had to turn it over when you're done listening to side A to listen to the songs that were on side B.
Oh.
All right, good. You helped each other out really nicely. You each get no prize at all. I'm sorry.
Cooperation.
Now, one last thing here is in the spirit of cooperation, I would like you to tell me a story one word at a time. We're going to start with Egypt, and we're going to go to Dwayne and then back to Egypt. And I want you to tell me a coherent story in a minute. Dwayne?
I
Was.
riding
My.
bicycle,
And.
then
I.
saw
A.
fox
In front.
That's 2 words, but that's okay.
Oh.
of
Me.
and
I.
started
To.
scream,
And.
shout,
And.
cry
So.
that
Was.
the
End.
of
The.
encounter
With.
the
Little.
fox.
The end. Nice. You made a good story there. That actually made sense. Way to go. A riddle. Okay, you got to work together on this. Pay attention now. I am a word. If you pronounce me rightly, it will be wrong. If you pronounce me wrong, it is right. What word am I? Dwayne, you can help out if you know it.
I'm not even sure how to help out.
That's hard. I don't know.
No, it's not that.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. The answer is in the question. I'm a word. If you pronounce me rightly, it will be wrong. If you pronounce me wrong, it is right. What word am I?
Oh, you can get this one.
Wrong?
You got it.
Oh.
You're right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to put you through that.
No problem.
Before I let you go, I'm going to play a little excerpt from a song, and I need you to Sing along. Stand by for the key change. This has been Xing the Gap. The podcast was edited by me, Rick Miller, and special thanks to my guests, Dwayne in Egypt, Morgan, who recorded this in their homes, socially distanced due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the podcast was originally recorded as part of a joint initiative between Third Space Community Arts and West Hill United Church. For more info, go to westhill.net. And please let me know what you think, who you'd like to hear as my next guests at Rick Miller Actor on Twitter and Instagram, or rickmiller.ca. There you'll find links to full episodes, transcripts, news about my shows. And for more boom-related stories, check out our oral history project at encyclopediacanada.com/stories. And remember, in polarized times, you have a choice. Build a wall or build a bridge. Build bridges, not walls.
Xing the Gap.